Hypnosis works, transforming the mind.
Hi there, I'm Hendrik Baird, a practicing non-medical hypnotherapist currently based in Pretoria, South Africa. I'm always curious to learn more about hypnosis, and so I thought, what better way to learn than to chat with other hypnotherapists to gain some insights into what they do and how they work. So join me as we explore the fascinating world of the mind and of hypnosis. And in this part 2 of a 2-part series, I'm chatting to Richard Morris. Today we chat about his history of hypnosis and his practice. Richard, how did you get involved in hypnosis? How did you get started? Where did you hear about it the first time?
My inquisitive, the very first time was actually quite interesting. I was probably about 14 years of age, and it was a rainy day on the west coast of Scotland, and I had nothing to do. And some friends and I walked past a theatre, and there was a stage hypnotist. So we went and we got tickets, and we went and we sat there. And this guy and his very glamorous assistant came onto the stage, and he started doing the susceptibility exercises with the audience to see who he was going to select to go up onto the stage. And the first thing we did was we took our hands, we interlaced our fingers, and then he told us about the glue that's gluing our hands together. And he said, now try and pull your hands apart. And most of the people just pulled their hands apart. But for some reason, my fingers didn't come apart. And it was the most unusual feeling, because I knew that I could pull my fingers apart, but something somewhere inside of me didn't want to. It wasn't that I couldn't, I didn't want to. And that fascinated me. So there were about 10 or 12 of us that got called up onto the stage, and there were more exercises to do. And eventually, after 2 or 3 of the other exercises that weren't as effective as that one, I was told to go back to my seat. And while we were there, one of the guys was immensely susceptible to hypnosis, and he actually started going catatonic on the stage. And it was, quite a concern for the audience. But I must say, the guy handled it very professionally. His assistant took the guy off the stage, and they worked with him behind the stage. And then they gave him his money back and sent him home. But there, I saw all sides of it, and those sorts of experiences, they kind of pique your interest. And obviously, when I was doing my sport, I played rugby in France. I went from the UK to France to play rugby. It wasn't professional in those days. I played cricket, I did cross-country running, and all sorts of things. I started to understand that it's all about focus. And the difference between the top performers and the mediocre performers is not necessarily a knowledge of the sport or skills in the sport. It's more about your mental attitude and your determination towards it. More particularly with things like long-distance running, because, there's quite a lot of pain, physical pain that you have to go through, and it's only really that determination that drives you through it. I just did my thing, and then years later I saw an advert. I can't remember where I saw it now, but it was a Samha advert with John Dutton. And I went and I did his 1-week course. And I enjoyed that, and then I started seeing people, and I found that I had a little bit of a knack for it, because I've never advertised my business. All my clients are referrals from other clients. So The ones that I don't hear from again, I probably didn't do a very good job, but I've had enough.
Oh, you did an excellent job.
Yes, yeah.
I have to see you again.
And I've been very fortunate to have the support of a couple of GPs as well. They refer people to me, and I basically built my business on that, and then I became an advanced practitioner with Samho as well. I think I've been in the business now for probably about 12 or 15 years.
Oh, wow. When did you come to South Africa?
23rd of January 1983.
Oh, wow.
You never forget the date. And I arrived here with 200 Rand, a suitcase of clothes and a boombox.
Wow. What did you do before doing that?
I'm a civil engineer by training. I studied civil engineering at Leeds University. Then I came straight to South Africa. South Africa was my second choice. The first job offer was a company that was going to do work in the Caribbean, but the contract fell through. So I came to South Africa, and I've been here ever since. And I must say, I've turned my 200 Rand over a couple of times in the 35 years that I've been here. I raised a family here.
So a lot of people, we get trained in hypnosis, and we're all skilled and we can do all these wonderful things, but how do you start a business? I don't think there's lots of information for people starting out in this field. How do you actually start a practice? Well,
I think the thing is, for me, you have to put yourself in front of people. I've been very fortunate in that most of my clients are referrals, but now I'm getting to the stage where I would like to travel the world. I would like to have more international clients that would give me the opportunity to travel the world and see different places. And I think one of the best ways at the moment is through the internet. Maybe start with a blog, because the wonderful thing about a blog is you have the opportunity to share your ideas. And the more visitors you have to your page, the more you can spread your message. For me, I like to think that my message is fairly unique. I haven't seen too many other people, but it's only a matter of time before the word spreads and people will adopt. It's just in the nature of things. Somebody visits a website and they start adopting ideas, and I'm more than willing. I'm more than happy for that to happen, because the more people that get helped, and the more we raise the vibration, and the more we live in love rather than fear, then the better life is going to be for everybody, and the easier life flows. But the main thing is to get yourself in front of people. A blog is a way to do it. If you want to do it the old-fashioned way, you can stand at the traffic light with leaflets. But it's the same percentage of return, by the way. But and the wonderful thing about it, look, when I write, time stands still for me. So when I'm getting my ideas down, either as in a blog post or in a book, that's when my juices are cooking and my energy is really flowing. And I find that you start remembering these little incidents that happen that you can share with people that make such a difference. I did a recording for one of the churches. They're still having virtual services, and they asked me to record a talk. And I've got to be honest, I was a little bit busy, and I sat down at the last minute and put 20 minutes together, but I knew more or less what I wanted to speak about, and it's something that I'm quite well versed in. And my thoughts about it were, I hope it doesn't sound too rushed and ill-prepared and what have you. And I bumped into somebody the other day in the shops, and she said, I'd listened to your talk on the church's website the other day. It's absolutely fantastic. I had to listen to it 3 times. And there was me thinking, so if you can do something for somebody else, do it, because you don't know what impact it's going to have on their lives. If you can be kind to somebody when they're having a bad time. In the book, I talk about a guy who's an institution in America, is Bill Rogers. He had a kid show that ran for about 40 years. And he had a motto. He says, you don't know what somebody else is going through, so just be kind. Doesn't cost you anything, just be kind. And if you talk to Americans, most of the Americans that are our sort of age now, they grew up in that environment. You know, there was a stage when the Congress in America wanted to cut educational funding to the TV stations for educational programs. And Mr. Roberts went to Congress and he gave a speech, and the speech impressed them so much that they actually increased the funding to the TV channels. And you know, there's actually a movie going around about it at the moment. It was made fairly recently with Tom Hanks. It's called A Wonderful Day in the Neighborhood. So if you get a chance to watch it, because that is the type of person that we should aspire to be. Great listener, had time for everybody. He actually, all the kids used to write to him and he used to answer all those letters individually.
There's in fact a great documentary about him on
Yes,
Netflix.
yes, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the kind of attitude a hypnotherapist should have. I mean, it's one of great empathy and wonderful listening skills, and with a great deep desire to help somebody.
Yeah, it is, because at the end of the day, we're all in the same boat. We're all going through life. And unfortunately, we weren't handed an instruction book at the beginning. So, you know, if we've gleaned a little bit of insight how to make the journey a little bit easier, more meaningful and more fulfilling, then I think we're not doing ourselves justice if we don't share that with those that are less fortunate than ourselves. You know, who knows? You know, I mean, like that young golfer that I worked with that went on to win all those competitions. You don't know what somebody's potential is until you give them the opportunity to realize it. You know, there's so many people that are living in poverty and hardship around the world that could be the next, I don't know, the next Bill Gates, the next Elon Musk, whoever. You know, but if they're not given a chance, they won't. We'll never know.
You obviously see a lot of sports people in your practice, but some of the other things that you deal with on a regular basis, before we talk about
I've done some couples relationship assistance, depression, obviously, that's a big one at the moment. I mean, there's a lot of people that feel very separated at the moment because of COVID, smoking, weight loss. But with the weight loss, we try and tie the reasons why they're eating into the diet plan. And that can be quite varied as well. You know, you can find somebody who they eat for comfort because maybe when they were small, their mother gave them a cookie when they were feeling sad. Or maybe their mother gave them a cookie when they did well. So now they just use it for comfort. And it's to get into those reasons and actually find the reasons, go through it with the person, allow them to free themselves from it, and then get them on the right plan with a proper meal plan and proper exercise and proper nutrition. I've had insomniacs come see me, nail biting, nose picking.
I had a lady who was a trichomaniac. She kept pulling her hair out.
Yeah.
And for some reason, she couldn't get past that. And she would stop for a while and then it would just come back. And never got to the root of it somehow.
Yeah, it's all those funny triggers. And sometimes it's quite difficult to get in there. And sometimes you just have to forget about trying to find out why it happened and just get on with trying to sort it out. And I think that is one of the benefits about the hypnotherapy, is that initially you don't necessarily need to know all the difficulties that somebody's gone through to help them. You know, sometimes people feel uncomfortable talking about their childhood or their past or their father or their mother or whatever has led to this situation that they find themselves in. And sometimes it's just a question of finding that trigger and detaching the behavior from the trigger, substituting it with another trigger with different behavior, and then letting them go forward. A couple of years ago, I had a guy, he's actually a TV personality in South Africa, and he had a drug problem. You know, it wasn't affecting his work, but it was obviously something that he was very concerned about. So we managed to sort him out, but now, you know, when the brain has got to be full. So what happens is when you take something out, you can't leave an empty space because otherwise it'll insidiously find its way back in there. So you have to replace it with something else. Now, this guy was quite keen on fitness and gym. So, and he actually used to train at the same gym that I train at, which was coincidental. And so he took that addictive personality that he had and he buried it into the gym. He used to go to the gym 3 or 4 times a day.
Sure.
And eventually I had to take him aside and say to him, listen, it's great what you're doing, but you need to be careful. You need to. But he just loves the gym so much. And what had happened, obviously, was that addictive personality had now found something new to latch onto. So then what we had to work with was actually trying to bring balance and bring reasoning into that whole process so that it wasn't just because what I would be a little bit concerned about in a situation like that is, when he runs out of steam with the exercise, what else is that addictive personality going to look for? And but we managed to sort it out. So he's very happy now. He got married fairly recently. Yeah. So.
Of all the things you work with, which is the one you least like? That's the most difficult or the most unpleasant.
I try not to work with drugs. The issue that I have is that the hard drugs actually destroy parts of the brain. And one of the things that you really need if hypnosis is going to help you is you need to have a certain amount of focus. Whereas I have a huge amount of sympathy with people who are suffering from a drug addiction. I really have empathy for the fact that they destroy their own lives and the lives of everybody around them. They're quite difficult to work with because, I find it quite difficult to work with somebody where if I am trying to help them, they think it's okay to turn up for a session and they're high. Then I can't help you. Look, if I don't have to work with people with drugs, then I prefer not to.
Actually, Tom Budge and Yvonne Munch has written a great book about addiction and
yes.
thing, and I'll show you a bit later. And they've got some great scripts and ideas of how to help people. But it is a very specialized kind of thing because also you can't help somebody who is in the midst of addiction. You can only help them once they've gone through rehab and they, on the road to recovery.
Yeah, and a lot of that recovery, you need to have some type of a buddy system. It's almost like if you have somebody who has bipolar disorder, they have to have a support structure. And it can't be the therapist. You just can't have people phoning you all hours and all times of the night, and you must drop whatever you're doing and run and try and help them. And some people don't have that structure, and then it makes it more challenging. And I wish there was, I wish I'd found or I could figure out a way to help them more effectively. But at the moment, it's something that if I don't need to do it, I don't do it.
You are very good at helping sports people, though.
Yeah, perhaps I'll let you in on a little secret. Sports people are the easiest people to work with. They're motivated. They're dedicated. They already have the right attitude. All I have to do is go into their minds and flip that switch, that they believe that they're unbeatable.
I must be honest, I have had 2 clients who, well, 3. One was a poker player. I'm not quite sure that's sport. But the one was a power lifter, and he had this problem where he would lift the weight and it would be all okay, but at some point his hands or his arms would flip or something and he would lose the weight. And we did one session and he came back best in show, not like show, but South African record, all those sort of things. I had another lady who was a top athlete who'd lost all motivation to run. She's got sponsorships running out of her ears, but running, she just lost it. And we did one session, she came second in the conference. So it is quite easy, as you say. I mean, you've just got. It's
very rewarding as well. When they phone you up and say, "Oh, you just won this."
My medals, my pictures.
Yeah.
But do they credit you for that in the end? And go, look, it's because of Richard that I did this.
On the one hand, I think they want to maintain that that position, and perhaps they don't want the competition to know where they're getting that secret juice from. But for me, I when I'm working with my sports clients, we have quite a special relationship, and I will travel with them to competitions, and I'll support them because I like to observe. Because it's funny. I'm a big rugby fan, so I like to watch the rugby. But what my late wife used to find quite irritating is I used to be able to see, I could tell you whether the conversion was going to go over or not, just from the body language of the guy doing the kicking. And she used to get so irritated when I turned around and say, well, no, he's going to miss this kick, or this one's going over. But and I think also if you look, we've come a long way. But there is still a little bit of not a stigma, but there's a little bit of doubt about hypnosis as a practice in general, and the recognition that the industry needs to work on, to be quite honest. We quite often say that we're the sort of the last port of call for people when they're having difficulties, when in actual fact, obviously, we believe that we should be the first. The other thing is that we don't sell medicines to people, and we don't sell courses to people. We actually teach people to become stronger within themselves so that they can help themselves. And, in a corporate society where everything is profit driven, that kind of goes a little bit against the grain. I can't tell you the number of times that people have been shocked when they say, okay, well, must I come see you 6 times more, 10 times more? I said, well, no, as far as I'm concerned, once should be enough. If you want to come for a refresher, by all means come. But, and it's that psychology of trying to get people to believe that there isn't actually anything wrong with them. It may be circumstances that put them in a position where they're not functioning at their best, and maybe they don't understand how they've got to where they are, but there's nothing wrong with them. One of the techniques that I like to use with people who are depressed, go back into memories. Even drug addicts, alcoholics, depressed people, there was a time in their lives when they were happy, even if it was for a split second. And if you can anchor them into that emotion, it's better for them, and they enjoy it more than the drugs or the alcohol or whatever it is else that they're craving. Because, we as hypnotherapists, we know that first hit of drugs is the ultimate high. You will never achieve that again. Everything that you experience after that is downgraded by a couple of points, but you're constantly craving that ultimate hit. And the more you crave it, the more you destroy yourself. Whereas if you can find that center in yourself where you can feel whole, you can feel happy, and you can feel... I had one client, she was having some difficulties in her marriage. It was some sexual problems. And she was quite depressed about it. And we worked with a thing where we worked with color-coded tickets that she would stick around the house, and each ticket was associated with a particular experience in her life when she felt on top of the world. And basically I said to her, you stick 4 or 5 of these around the house, and every time you walk past it, you stop for 30 seconds, you think about it, but you feel it. And she came out of her depression. She came off her medication within 2-3 months.
Sure.
So, we have what we need inside of us. We just need to be able to find it. And I think as hypnotherapists, our job is to help people find that thing within themselves that can make themselves whole.
And it's also got to do with perspective, doesn't it? Because a lot of people will sit there and tell you for hours what is wrong, but they would never think about telling you what they want to be right. You would have to guide them there going, okay, well, I see this is the problem, sure. But if you had to change, what would...
Yes, now the cause for that is actually quite interesting, and it was something that I was going through 2 nights ago, because I like to study in the evenings as well, and look for new techniques. And basically, what is happening now is your emotional state, your body is actually forcing your brain. What is actually doing is the emotion and the stasis that you sit in. If you change it, your body then will change the vibration to push that stasis back into your mind and back into those thoughts. Now, the whole thing about that is that if you're thinking about the problems, yes, that is just going to reinforce the emotions. But like you say, if you just offer a possibility, consider this possibility. With people who suffer from depression, it's very difficult for to convince somebody who is depressed that they deserve that little bit of happiness, that they deserve to be successful, that they deserve not to be beaten up by their husband or whatever. And the only way that you can reference it is to go back to experiences in their lives and say, well, did you ever win a prize at school? What if I ask you just off the top of your head, what's the first thing you think of when I ask you when was the last time that you were happy? And normally they're fairly insignificant things to most people, but to those people they are wonderful because of the emotion that it makes them feel. And if you can teach them to hold on to that emotion and practice it, like with the tickets around the house, then what happens is it starts to plant a seed. There was a company called Baldwin in the UK, and they did a study where it's like a little game that psychologists put up, and there's on the computer screen there's 20 or 30 faces, and all of the faces are sad except for one. The point of the game is you click on the happy face, you get a new screen. And this carries on for about a minute and a half, and then you've won the game. And it times you and sees if your score is better. Now, the whole point about something like that is it's starting to teach you to look at the positive things in life instead of the negative. So, like you say, it is about perspective. It's like being kind. Being kind is not hard. Being nasty to somebody is not hard. But how are you wiring yourself? With my daughter, sometimes she used to be a little bit grumpy about people, or, if somebody was rude to her, I'd say, you have to understand, you don't know somebody else's story. You might know that, and they don't know your story. But because you don't know their story, how can you judge them? You don't know what they're going through. Maybe they're having a shitty day, or, maybe somebody in their family is dying, and that's why they're behaving the way that they do. Just don't react to it. If you think about that energetic life of oneness rather than separation, if you can sit and observe an emotion, and you can observe a state either in yourself, which is hard, or in somebody else, which is quite easy, you can start to understand why people and why you yourself behave the way that you do. And when you understand it, you can change it. Because then you're giving yourself options. If you don't understand it, you have no options. And this is where your hypnosis or your meditation or your prayer is so important, because you are taking yourself out of your environment. You're looking inwards. You're thinking about who you are, what you are, at your very base. What do I want to be? Because if you think about it, there are so many people in life who take their known past and they create a known future. What about you take that known past and you just say it's past, because it's gone. It doesn't exist anymore. Your present exists, and you choose then to move forward into a possible future instead of a probable future. Because you have infinite possibilities. But because of the energy that you are pushing out into the world and the attitudes that you're putting out in the world, you have certain probable futures. But they're only probable. They're not definite. If you decide to change, and if you decide to put in the effort to change and change your attitude and change your beliefs and challenge your limiting beliefs, then it opens up a whole panacea of possibilities that your known past probably doesn't think that you would be capable of doing. And that's how we put these limitations onto ourselves, because we take the known past and we convert it into the probable future instead of leaving it behind. And I know that's difficult, but if you think about it, as people, I can't remember whether it's 7 days or 7 years, all of our cells are replaced in a certain period of time.
7 years or something.
Yes, yeah. So we become different people.
We're in fact renewed all the time.
Yes. So you're not that person in any case. You're a completely different set of energies.
It's gone grey.
Yes, well, yeah, tell me about it. But if you can start to look at concepts like that and use them in such a way that they can empower you, because you're not your past.
So you're saying you're not your story?
No, definitely not. Definitely not. If you want to be your story, you can be your story, but you have the choice not to be your story. We're far more than that. You know, I mean, if you think of where we come from, who we are, it's mind-boggling that we allow ourselves to be held prisoner, and we do it to ourselves.
And we limit ourselves, like your book says. You have to overcome your limiting beliefs because we don't think we are worthy or that things are possible, and therefore we get stuck in our old little ways and our routines and our habits.
Yes.
And then we don't make anything of our lives that really means something.
There's in the Buddhist school of thought, they talk about ego. And these days we think of ego as a very bad thing. But ego is a very necessary thing. Because if you believe that you are a being of light and you're having a physical experience, if you knew everything about your true existence and you remembered who you were fully, you wouldn't want to be on this earth. It's too hard. So now an ego is a necessary thing, because the ego is what creates the illusion of separation from the oneness, so that you can experience light and dark, hot and cold, love and fear, and learn what it's about and learn how to function within it, because that's what life is. It's that learning experience. So the ego is necessary. However, the ego is very fragile, and the ego needs to justify its existence. So what it starts to do is it starts to separate you more, and it starts to feed stuff into the subconscious mind that makes you feel you're not one of the crowd, you're not this, you're not worthy, you can't do this. And in that way, it justifies, okay, now we need to join this support group. We need to be with the in crowd. We need to wear this type of clothing so that we can fit in with that. We need to join a gang. You know, we need to go and drink down the pub until we can't stand up on a Friday night. And that's how it justifies its existence. And that's how we find ourselves conditioning ourselves with these beliefs that are totally inappropriate to the energetic being that we are. Because, you know, if I go back to the lady that came to me for the past life regression and the discussion that we had, everything is oneness. If humanity in general accepted and acknowledged that oneness, straight away there would be differences of opinion, but there would be no wars. There would be no racism. There would be no segregation. You would probably still have prisons because of the choices that people make, but you know, then we could go on about the process of learning about the duality, because if you look at outside of the physical existence, there's only love. I like to tell my clients that if you look at all the atoms in the universe, what holds them in place is love. But now, within the physical universe, we have opposites. So we've created fear. And fear is the big thing that holds us back. You know, whether it's how we dress it up is you know, different things. But at the very essence of things, it's either you live in love, and love is not an emotion. Love is a state of mind, and fear is a state of mind. Your happiness and all of those things and sadness and that are things that you need to experience, because it's the richness of that life that you need to learn. But you need to observe it, learn from it, and then put it aside. Not allow it to color your emotions, to actually take over your spirit and to start to tell you who you are. Because that's not who you are. So, I don't know if that helps anybody, but, that's how we've got to start thinking of things.
Well, I found chatting to my hypnosis colleague very interesting and insightful, and I trust that you did too. Their contact details are in the podcast description, or you can get in touch with them through findahypnotist.co.za. If you want to find out more about me and what I do, please visit my website, hendrikbaird.com. Remember, I release new episodes every Thursday, so be sure to subscribe to my channel. Until we speak again, have a hypnotic day.
Hypnosis works, transforming the mind.